Hi, there is now an increased interest from the Australian government as well as the Australian private sector to engage with Africa. There's a lot more money flowing from Australia to Africa. It is estimated, in fact, that there's more than 50 billion of investment money that is going from Australia to Africa. That means that Africa is becoming a very interesting partner for Australia, both from the government level as well as the private level. What does this mean for communities here in Australia, especially the diaspora, the African diaspora community? Are there new opportunities that should be grabbed? Are there challenges in this new engagement? I had a chance to interview Dr. Burhan Ahmed from African think tank, and we discussed the Australian engagement into Africa. How are you going today, Dr. Burhan?
Thank you, Clyde. Well, life is always happiness and smile.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. All right, let's go straight into it. Australia and Africa. Give us a bit of a perspective, a historical perspective on the engagement of these two continents.
Well, look, let's step back and see Australia's role in Africa. Australia, especially from the Whitlam government, they played a key role in South Africa. The apartheid government, they played well. And then also in Zimbabwe, the Jan Smith government. Australia had a big role in that sort of social change that has happened. And to be honest, to their credit, Malcolm Fraser has championed it, and he was the first one to endorse Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
So that history gives Australia a place in Africa. White apartheid in South Africa, the whole world was shying. Margaret Thatcher at the time opposed Australian government to stand and to say no to apartheid. And imagine, this is big UK, the big brother, and Australia stood against that. So we have got a great history.
All right, well, that's very good start. Now, you've been here in Australia for long, I suppose more than 20 years. How do you read the Australian engagement with Africa today?
Well, look, to be fair to the previous government, the Labour government has done magnificent in terms of supporting Africa. For the first time, food security, RAD put 300 million for African food security. They were building an excellency of food security studies. Australia has got similar climatic regions of dry land, farming, water shortage, drought, and all that stuff that is similar in most African countries. And they have taken leadership, but that was at the expense also, let's not forget, the UN Security Council position for Australia was championed by most African countries. So it was, in return something, but also, friend in need is always there. And so we, the African diaspora, now we can be the best champions of Australia-Africa relationship.
But there's a bit of a change now with the new government. I guess it's a bit of a different focus.
Well, look, no doubt, and always that's the nature of politics. What makes liberal is liberal. Yes. What makes Labour is Labour. And you can see that left and right thinking. But it is always good, because if we see now the difference what Labour and Liberals are doing in real context of the Africa-Australia relation, Labour was focusing more on humanitarian aid issues. Liberals are now more on taking human rights issue of the equation, which we can see it here with asylum seekers. We don't need rocket science. But, seeing it from development issue. So the philosophical difference is also reflected in the relation of Africa-Australia with the two parties.
Now, you just mentioned then the role of the diaspora in facilitating and improving, so to speak, the Australian government's involvement into Africa. Tell us how you would like to see that happen, and what needs to happen both from the diaspora groups as well as from the government to work together somehow to improve how the government and the private sector.
Well, look, let's take it this way first. As a diaspora group, we have to mobilize ourselves. We have to look where we are good to help. And in democracy, lobbying is one way of doing your scores on the board. As Africans, we need to see now where is the interest of our continent in Australia. How do we have the ears of politicians that Australia has a benefit in Australia, in Africa, and Africa has got benefit in Australia, and we can be the bridge builders. We've got the language, we've got the culture of both sides. We can build that. Now, if we go back to the government, there's so many opportunities that diasporas can play. Now, as mentioned yesterday, the G20 meeting in Brisbane is coming, and the G20 has the Global Development Millennium issue. Australia is leading it post-2015. Now, Africa is one of the key countries or continent in that Millennium Global Development. Africans have got all the skills that need and understanding the inside and the culture, the difference, the tribes of Africa. So Australia has to use this potential in making arguments to stand issues in Africa and to see Australia should not be latecomer to Africa, because we've got the Africans. Unlike many others now in China is stepping in Africa, but they have always barriers. Australia can take the barriers out. But when it comes to the private sector, the resource industry is investing in Africa nearly $50 billion.
Yeah.
That's only resource. But also, if you go onto the private, sector from, other import-export, there is over $9 billion exchange between Australia and Africa in merchandise.
But you have a feeling that the private sector, while the investment is increasing from Australia to Africa, it doesn't appear to be that the private sector is actually engaging the African diaspora as a potential source of human resources and with a lot of resources and knowledge and expertise to facilitate that. Is that because they don't see that need, or they haven't quite got it, that picture? What do you think is the case?
Well, look, it's a two-sides problem. We have got a problem. We are in a level that we need to wake up to show our potential. We've got so much potential. And this is, for me, the challenge that our future generation will face. Do we need to wait 10 years to start when we can start it now? So if our future generation to take leadership in the prosperity of Africa, Australia, we need to open the door now.
And why isn't that happening? Why
is it happening? Because, one, we Africans in general are not pushing too much ambition in the bigger picture of the national agenda. If you see Australia's agenda always set in the election time, we don't set our agenda in election. We don't put what our interests are. Even if you take it not from a bilateral relation of Africa, Australia, even from a communal type, Africans are quite a significant number, over 350,000. Now, we should have our agendas in the national agenda. In the election, we should have a voice.
All right, let's talk in terms of now the recommendations that you would make, I guess, in terms of improving Australia's government and private sector engagement with Africa. You've talked about the two sides, the government side and the diaspora side. What are your, let's say, 2 or 3 recommendations you would give to the government and 3 recommendations to the diaspora groups?
Well, look, if I will be starting with the government first, the G20 meeting coming in Brisbane is critical for Africa agenda, the 50 years. African diaspora should have a contribution in the G20 in Brisbane, and Australian government should encourage and facilitate, for the African diaspora to participate. We know most of the crisis happening in Africa. We should have an inside contribution to this debate. Instead of us just watching from the fringe of this game, and we are part of the crisis. Our family are the ones paying the price on the other side.
All right, so second thing.
The second thing from Australian government is opportunities for African diaspora in Australian foreign affairs relates to Africa. African diplomatic affairs need to be connected with African diaspora. Because that understanding, that knowledge, it helps our resource mining companies go in there. Why do we wait another 10 years for disaster to come, and then we go through hell a lot of legal processes to compensate the local community?
So you want the government to establish some sort of mechanisms that engages with the diaspora?
Engage the diaspora that, like say, a simple example, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
If there is need for Australian mining to go there, isn't it better to consult your community, to consult you? What is the problem? What's the network? What's the process? What's the culture to deal with this?
Because we are part of both, so we know
Exactly.
both the Congolese perspective and the Australian perspective.
Exactly.
All right.
And that would help both sides, because the mining company will do the right thing from day one. They don't need to wait 10 years after
To do the right
destroying
thing.
the ecosystem and then, oh, sorry, we need to wake up. No.
All right.
So that is critical in my view.
Third recommendation?
My third recommendation is we Africans in Australia, the Australian government now, in fact, one of our crises, our second generation is failing. We don't have network in the system. When you take the Chinese, for example, as migrants, they have had a long history in this country. They have got a network in the system. The maximum network they got is me and you, who've been here for a while, educated and gone somewhere. This is as far as we can go. When we can go this much. So we need that, which I have been saying. In America, they've done that system, which is called the positive discrimination. We need something to help the communities. So why don't we give migrants or Africans now in general, they need support. We're not asking charity, we are asking opportunity.
Okay, well, we will talk more about this, because I sense there's quite a lot that needs to be communicated, and I'm sorry we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Maybe in our next opportunity we'll talk about the recommendations from the diaspora side, because I do agree that we from the diaspora community have got to be proactive, have got to push for things if we want them to happen, because they are not just going to be delivered to us on the
But
table.
also we need to see the big picture.
Yeah.
We should not always look these small things. I should not focus on you. I should focus on the bigger. If I go there, you go with me, and I go with you. And you're not my problem, I'm not your problem, I'm not anyone's problem, or you are not anyone's. But what is important for us is how to focus and help each other to reach there. If one of us gets there, what Obama did for us is the best example. Black man is respected in the world because of Obama. Okay?
Yeah.
We need to set that example in Australia.
One very good way to end this interview. Dr. Berhan Ahmed, thank you very much for your time to Africa Media Australia. I'm certainly sure we're going to find lots of opportunities in future to talk more about this interesting topic. Until next time, God bless.